Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, we're out the Motor City Madmouth, and today is the day that we all get to brag, and each and every one of us gets to brag. And I welcome my esteemed crew here, Steve Balestrieri. Great to catch up with you over at Culver's out in Naples.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I finally got to see you guys in person, so that was really neat. And yeah, I wish we could have spent more time.
Well, we will. Don't worry. I got a new ride today, actually, a Jeep Renegade, and I'm going to tell you one thing. I better learn the word cruise control, or I'm going to be cruising for trouble here because that's happening stuff. At least I can say I've met every one of you at least one time face to face. Rick Curti, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And Mel Farr Jr. What's going on, Mel?
Not much. How you doing, Scott?
All right, ready to talk some football. Everybody get to brag about how good of prognosticators we are.
We're Nostradamus, sure.
Yeah, we sure. I'm going to go over all the scores here, and then we can laugh at each other, like each other. We know we got the 30s right, but there's only one in this crew that actually got the one square right in terms of the winning number on top. But we're going to review every one of them. I predicted before the contest Tampa would win 38-33. Well, at least they did win by more than 5 points. Rick figured a field goal would decide it 30-27. Okay. Mel actually had it the widest point differential, 34-24. And Steve Balestrieri is a crown jewel here with 31 at least, but the defense not so good at 30. So, all right, Steve, we'll let you lead off with this bad boy. What are your thoughts about how this whole played out?
Well, I mean, I thought Tampa would score 31 points, but I also said that they would win on a last-second field goal. So,
right.
That part of my prediction was blown right out of the water. I really didn't foresee their defense playing as well as they did. I thought they would struggle a little bit, as every team has, against the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought they had a very, very good game plan, and I thought they executed it perfectly. When you're looking at the way they did it, they held them to 9 points, only 3 field goals. I thought they executed really, really well. They put pressure on Mahomes. It was if you're a Tampa Bay fan, this was a fantastic Super Bowl because for the first time, Tom Brady had one where it was on cruise control, in the fourth quarter. All of his have gone down to the wire. So prior to this one, the biggest, difference was 10 points. So.
Well, what I said during the week, and I'll reinforce that it was the familiarity factor. I had asked Andy Reid about the familiarity factor, and well, you know what? When you play a team a second time, they make adjustments. They see the film. Mel, you know full what it's like to be in an NFL locker room. Playing a team one time doesn't mean you're going to see the same exact team. And Tampa had a lot of different things going differently. Had Antonio Brown was a factor in this football game. Leonard Fournette was finally starting to get his wheels. And then, of course, Ndamukong Suh, those are some of the individual players that we're going to emphasize. So, Mel, why don't you talk about the familiarity factor in this contest?
Well, I mean, I think you looked at it from the opening kickoff, and you saw that the Tampa Bay was the more aggressive team right from the beginning. I don't think it would have mattered, regardless, the penalties. They had that opportunity down there. They got down to the goal line and they didn't score, but they were the more aggressive team from the opening kickoff, and Tampa Bay was determined to win this game from the very, very beginning. And they had a very good game plan for the Chiefs as well defensively to hold Patrick Mahomes and that offense to not allow them to score a touchdown for 60 minutes. And you got to tip your hat off. You got to tip your hat to Tampa Bay and that defense and the strategy, the game plan that they came in there with. So obviously they learned from their mistakes the first game. They corrected those mistakes and they executed extremely well on the defensive side of the ball to give them every opportunity to win. Because if you're scoring touchdowns, they're kicking field goals, it's very difficult to win. And they did, you had to tip your cap to Todd Bowles and that defensive staff and the game plan that they came in there with, and they executed.
Yeah, had they have scored that 7 points, I'd have gotten the 38 spot here, not the 38 that Steve ended up getting. Although it's safe to say that they needed every bit of that. I didn't think that Kansas City would be reduced to a field goal team, but indeed, Rick Curti, they were, and then some. So, what are your observations about this football game, Rick?
It was very one-sided, unfortunately. I thought it'd be a better game than this. I think a home field advantage had a lot to do with it. I told people that it was going to, not this bad, but I mean, we've never had a team host to have a home game in the Super Bowl, and I think that played a huge part in the Super Bowl because Tom Brady, you just drive right down the street and, honey, I'll be home. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Gotta win a Super Bowl. I mean, short drive where they had to fly in. That had a lot to do with it. And to me, the MVP was it wasn't Tom Brady. It was the Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles defense. I mean, he was on his back the whole time. It was the first time I ever seen Mahomes frustrated. They were all frustrated. I keep hearing people say that the referees, again, the NFL's rigged and the referees are all Tom Brady fans. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. The man won the Super Bowl. It's over. It was one-sided. It wasn't as great as we all thought it was, but we all predicted Tampa Bay would win. And I think a lot of it had to do with them being in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, well, so you really do feel at home. I know
Yeah.
Kansas City traveled on Saturday. I'm not going to sit here and make any excuses for the Chiefs, but I know that Andy Reid's son, Britt Reid, obviously was involved in that unfortunate accident, which has that 5-year-old young girl still seriously ill. It's too bad. You certainly don't want distractions, but I think that Andy Reid will be the first to tell you guys he's not using that as an excuse. They were simply outplayed. And Mahomes, to me, looked really real and human this time. He didn't look like he had a Superman's cape here flying all over the place, like everybody had built him up. Patrick Mahomes will win a lot in this league. There is no question about it. But against Tom Brady, the experience and the fact that Tampa had a lot of horses, and yes, Rick, you talked about the defense led by Todd Bowles. And of course, what about Byron Leftwich, the job that he's done as well as an offensive coordinator? Tom Brady bought into it. So when you look at the sum of the whole and the whole of the sum, that's why we all look good that they all won. Because I know that as I was watching a lot of the pregame shows a little bit, a lot of people were divided on Kansas City and Tampa. Now, I got to tell you what I did on Super Bowl Sunday. I didn't watch any of the pregame stuff. I actually covered the Detroit Red Wings and the Florida Panthers over at the BB&T Center. So I had hockey from 2 until like 1:30 until 6:30, and then ended up watching the Super Bowl after that. And then, it was a late night. So I had my interesting, unique doubleheader. So with that said, we addressed the Tampa. So are all of us proud of each other that at least we all got it right when so many people got it wrong?
Absolutely.
A broke clock is right twice a day, right?
What's that?
A broke clock is right twice a day. So, I mean, we got lucky.
Yeah, we were half right.
Let's not go patting ourselves on the back here. We got lucky.
All 4 of us went out on a limb. Nobody wanted to be by themselves on the Kansas City train, man. We're not eating Kansas City barbecued. We got barbecued. We didn't eat the barbecue, guys. I'm telling you. But all 4 of us went ahead and decided to pick Tampa. Now, when I was on Twitter, I wasn't sure if I was going to go out there and tweet all the Tampa people in Kansas City. But then after I talked to Steve on Saturday over at Culver's, why not go ahead and we don't care. But I made sure that we had enough Tampa people as well. And as it turns out, we had enough ammo to make sure that we were stacking social media very well. So guys, I'm proud of all of us that we all stayed on the same thing with Tampa, because if one of us would have gotten it wrong, it would have been 3 against 1 or 2 against 2, but it never happened. All right. So let's talk about the fact that the Super Bowl had higher TV rating in Boston and Tampa. Mel, does that surprise you at all?
You said what now?
That the Super Bowl 55 had a higher rating in Boston than Tampa.
I hadn't heard that.
Well, yeah, they did.
I mean, I think a lot of people were interested, and obviously up in the Boston area. Obviously with the way that the season ended for the Patriots, I think a lot of people still up there in the New England area have a lot of love for Tom Brady, and they wished him a tremendous amount of success. I think they wanted to see him do well. Obviously, they would have loved to see their home team do well this year, but because their home team was not in the playoffs, or was not in the tournament this year, and they weren't in the Super Bowl, I think that a lot of them had an interest in seeing whether or not Tom Brady and Gronkowski were going to do well. So does that surprise me? I guess probably so, but I mean, I don't know exactly what the market size of Boston is versus the market size of Tampa. So what that equates to as far as numbers, I don't really know. But does it surprise me? And I guess it does a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Steve, nobody knows it better than you.
Well, and you have to look at it from a couple of different factors too. One was that, Brady and Gronkowski were playing in the Super Bowl, and they were the two most popular players, for the past, Brady for 20 years, but Gronkowski for the past 10. So, I mean, both of them were extremely popular. And you have to remember, it was snowy and single digits up in Boston on Sunday night, where, Tampa, there was things to do if you're not a diehard football fan. There was, things to do outside that people in Boston weren't going to be doing. So I think that played into it as well. But the Brady factor was definitely a big one there, because people were torn. I'd say 3/4 of the people were hoping Brady and Gronkowski would come out on top. And then 1/4 of the fan base were hoping they would lose, because they took it badly that they left, not paying attention to the circumstances, especially around Brady's leaving, rather than Gronkowski, who retired. So
Rick,
it is what it is.
What's your take on it, Rick?
Oh, I'm not surprised, because all those Patriot fans are now Tampa Bay fans. That's just what people do. I remember I remember seeing all these Patriot fans, but yet they didn't know who Doug Flutie was, or they didn't know that Pete Carroll was the head coach there, or Bill Parcells, or they probably didn't even know who Drew Brees was. But as soon as he started winning, they became Tampa Bay fans, and people became Kansas City fans. And now that Brady's with Tampa Bay, those Patriot fans are now Buccaneer fans, and I just think they saw it because they were interested and intrigued. I think some of them saw that Brady was the reason that Patriots were successful, and kind of liked it that Bill Belichick was sitting at home watching the Super Bowl and watching his quarterback win another Super Bowl with a different team. So I think it's kind of not surprised, because I think he's so popular in Massachusetts, and still is popular, and people didn't really want to see him go. I didn't think he was going to go. I thought he'd stay there for like 2 more years and then retire, but he left. I don't really blame him. It was time for him to go, and he wanted to prove to people that he wasn't some game manager, as people kept calling him, that it was the system that was winning it for him. And he proved, nope, it's me. That's all me. And he can brag about it. So I'm not surprised, because he's so incredibly popular in Massachusetts.
Yeah, you can't be surprised. After all, Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls, and he's won more than any other team, which speaks volumes in itself. I think the one thing I like about Super Bowls sometimes is seeing individuals have a chance to win their first ring. Leonard Fournette was certainly a huge find, leaving Jacksonville, and fit in very nicely with Tampa. And Dominican Sue paid a lot of dues to get to where he's at. I was really happy for him. And of course, Antonio Brown, of all people, gets a ring too. So, you know what? No matter what they say about him now, all 3 of these are Super Bowl champions, no matter whatever happens to the rest of their career. So, without a doubt, first timers. You always like to see that, Steve. First timers get their one chance at it. I mean, I think we can all agree on that, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because when that streaker ran on the field, one of the things that was kind of when the Patriots went to their second Super Bowl with Brady against Carolina, a guy ran on the field dressed as a referee, and then he started doing a striptease, and they cut that out on the TV broadcast. But what people forgot, except the real diehard part of the fan base, was as the guy was running by, a linebacker, Matt Chatham, who played for the Patriots for all three of their first Super Bowl wins, Matt Chatham clotheslined the guy and took the ball back because the guy had taken the football off the field. And Matt Chatham clotheslined the guy and laid him out. And so when that happened, everyone started tweeting at Matt Chatham on Sunday night saying, "Hey, where are you when we need you?" And he took it all in stride. He was laughing about it. But that was one of the kind of cool subplots of the game. For those of us who remember back, that was like Super Bowl 38. So that's going back quite a few years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't have a chance to watch the halftime show. I hear it's not very good. And when I worked for Super Bowls, being in the stadium at my spot, I never cared about the Super Bowl. I was always interested about talking to my colleagues, getting more information. So it's a totally different animal when you're actually engrossed in everything going on. So, all right. So let's talk about a guy that's a Super Bowl winner, but who's taking a beating back there in Seattle, Russell Wilson. 394 sacks, 9 years during the regular season. Ouch. This is where long-term injuries and things like that take place. I don't blame Russell Wilson whatsoever for being frustrated at all with what's transpired in Seattle. We talk about Sleepless in Seattle as one of my favorite movies, but he's taking a beating in Seattle. Isn't he, Steve?
Huh?
He's taking a beating in Seattle.
He's been beat up quite a bit. And, when he was sitting there with Roger Goodell, he just did not look like a happy camper. And I'm sure the player in him, the competitor, he would obviously wished he was on the field, but I think they're going to figure out a way to keep him happy in Seattle. Pete Carroll, I mean, they can't trade him. I mean, that would be, for Pete Carroll, that would be suicide, career suicide there, because the fan base would rebel against them, for one.
Well, sink the franchise is what it would. Russell Wilson's gone all of a sudden. Holy moly.
Yeah, and then, what's your backup plan? They don't have a guy waiting in the wings that's going to be the guy. So I think they figure it out. But yeah, I firmly believe that he's frustrated. They started off, you remember, early in the season, Seattle was just lighting it up, and then teams kind of figured them out, and they struggled down the stretch big time.
Yeah, they really did. So I mean, I can understand why he is a little upset, Mel. And football's a physical game, and Russell Wilson's taking a beating back there. So any observations about Russell Wilson out in Seattle?
It's kind of ironic that the more mobile quarterbacks get sacked more, and Russell can eliminate some of those sacks himself, obviously with his feet, but also by getting rid of the ball. If you study some of the guys who don't get sacked very much, like Tom Brady, the one thing that Tom does do is, if the play is dead, he gets rid of the ball. What a mobile quarterback will do is he'll extend the play a little bit. And that's what Russell tends to do, is he'll extend the play a little bit, get outside the pocket or whatever, and he still may end up ultimately getting sacked. So sometimes, in some ways, it's a product of his own athleticism, his own gifts, the sacks that he gets. But at the same time, he's got to be smarter with the football when he has the ball in his hand. And sometimes it's just better to cut bait and just, live to fight another down. But he's so competitive that's just not in his DNA. And it's hard to protect the quarterback when you don't know exactly where he is. A guy like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, you know exactly where he's going to be in the pocket. He's going to be somewhere in that pocket. They're not going to move too far out of that pocket because they don't have that type of ability. Now, when a lineman sets and he expects the quarterback to be in a certain place and the quarterback's no longer there, makes it very difficult for him to sustain his blocks when the quarterback is moved because of something, whether somebody else got in his face, whatever the case may have been. That makes it very difficult. So again, his athleticism, his athletic ability is a blessing and a curse. I can understand from his standpoint that he wants to be protected. But again, you got to look at his salary, the type of money that he's making, and in the salary cap league that you are going to have to give up something, whether it's on the offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, defensive backfield, wide receivers, whatever it is. So, when Seattle was very good was when Russell was on his rookie contract, and they had the Legion of Boom, they had Marshawn Lynch, they were running the football well. The running game can be the quarterback's best friend, and he should really want them to concentrate and focus on running the football. That just makes his job that much easier. I know they talk about, let Russ cook. They had that whole campaign. The other than Tom Brady, because he's won without a significant running game.
Right.
Although there was times in the playoffs where the running game was great when they had LeGarrette Blount there and so forth. But for the most part, he's really had a non-existent running game. Although in Tampa Bay they do like to run the football, so they need to run the football. They need to get back to being that physical team that runs the football and plays good defense, and that could help Russell in many ways as far as eliminating the number of sacks that he takes.
Yeah, that's what the Lions are hoping for with Jared Goff, that they can develop some sort of a running attack between Deuce with Anthony Lynn as your offensive coordinator. They need to develop a running, and that's a formula for everybody. I don't care who you are, whether you're the Rams, the Lions, the Seahawks, whoever. You need to be able to run the football, protect the quarterback any way you can. And we can't forget the fact that you have a good running back there. You can always dink and dunk and throw it away if you get into trouble. It's like a safety valve. So, Rick?
Well, newsflash, Russell Wilson, nobody cares how you feel. Nobody cares that you're frustrated, you're making $30 million a year, you're married to a beautiful woman, you got a great life. Fans are not going to care. So I'm not surprised that people are getting upset with him. I'm kind of a little surprised because he usually doesn't air out his frustrations out, but I have a solution. How about a Deshaun Watson for Russell Wilson trade? Since they're both unhappy. Maybe they can do that. It's getting kind of ridiculous. These guys are getting paid so much money. They're famous. They're set for life, and they're complaining while people are like starving all around the world. So unfortunately, fans are not going to care. And so, Deshaun's getting criticized. I know Russell's getting criticized. I'm kind of over the whole thing because nobody cares. So, and Seahawks have been bad for a long time. They have no offensive line, no defensive line, no nothing. And if it wasn't for Russell Wilson, Seattle would be like a 4-12, 5-11 team. So, but they just need to get better people around him. And, right now, yeah, he is getting sacked a lot because there's nobody protecting him. And he knows that if this continues, he'll end up being like David Carr. He'll be gone. And so he will be, he knows that, it's a short shelf life. So, and with all the, brain injuries going on in the NFL and all that stuff, he wants to look out for his safety and he wants to win. So he knows they're not a winning team right now. And they're gonna have to figure some out. If not, just trade him away for Deshaun Watson, I guess. I don't know what else, unless they get some better players around him.
Well, the one thing that can't be lost sight of the whole thing is the salary cap figures are dropped. So when you have a guy commanding a big chunk out of your salary cap to begin with, and then a salary cap going down, isn't a whole lot of reinforcements like Mel talked about that you can bring in. So one guy's devouring most of your money, right, Steve? That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, but actually, Wilson's next 2 years on the salary cap aren't that big a hit. I think it's $22 million this would be this upcoming season. I think it's $24 million next season. That's a huge chunk of money. But at the same time, as franchise quarterbacks go, for a guy as talented as Russell Wilson, that's not prohibitive. Look at what some of these other guys are going to draw next year, and they don't have half the production he has. So, it's 6-1, half dozen the other. The one thing people got to remember, they get frustrated with these guys, But at the same time, it's what makes them such great football players is they're so competitive and they
Right.
want to win. That's the main thing. It's not about the money. And again, you watch Tom Brady this year. It's that competitive fire burns every single day. I mean, that's what drives him, even now at 43 years old to win a Super Bowl. And that competitive fire, it's really, really strong in these guys. And, it's not the money so much as the desire to win. And I'm sure Mel can speak volumes more than we can because he's been in that realm.
Go ahead, Mel. Speak volumes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, he's a competitor. Tom Brady, I mean, you can see his competitive juices with the little back and forth he had going on with Matthew in the game. You can see that he really wanted to win the game. I think I don't think there was any doubt in his mind, but I think he wanted to. Any doubt that maybe in other people's mind about who was more important in that relationship between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, I think he wanted to close that conversation. He wanted to settle that conversation and let everybody know that he was the horse that was pulling the buggy. He allowed everyone to believe that Bill was the horse pulling the buggy, but in reality, Tom was he was the one that made that thing go. And like I said, I take my hat off to him. I mean, I like to see greatness. I mean, we're having an opportunity in our lifetime to witness greatness, like some of the people who were here before us. When they look at Babe Ruth, or when we read about Babe Ruth, we're just like in such awe. Or Mickey Mantle, we're in such awe when we read about these people. Lou Gehrig and what he was able to do before he obviously became ill. Jesse Owens, we're looking at a guy that people are going to be looking back at in studying how great he was. And we may not really appreciate it. I think we do. I think we appreciate his greatness, but there's a lot of people that really don't appreciate his greatness because we're living in it and it's happening right now. But I know how hard it is to win a game at the Little League level. Just in Little League, how hard it is to win a football game. It's infinite times more difficult to win at the professional level, and to win at a consistent level in which he does, going to the playoffs, going to Super Bowls, winning divisional championships, then going into the Super Bowl and winning Super Bowls. And it's not like he's an also ran. He's not an other. He is the horse that's pulling the buggy. I mean, the team is going as he goes. He's not a kicker that's along for the ride. He's not a second string, a backup defensive lineman that's going along for the ride. Tom Brady is a horse pulling the buggy. He's the reason why the team, he's the reason why New England's won six Super Bowls, and he's the reason why Tampa Bay just won this one Super Bowl.
Yeah, it took Bruce Arians 12 weeks to figure it out until he realized maybe I better let Tom run the show. And as the old saying goes, better late than never. And that's why Bruce Arians has a ring that'll be about to be fit on his finger because of his Tom Brady's ability to get him the Lombardi Trophy. One other note I want to talk about is a guy that unfortunately had to deal with a brain situation. And this isn't funny because I had to deal with this, and a lot of people probably have. Marty Schottenheimer died at 77 due to Alzheimer's disease. He's the 8th winningest coach in the NFL, 126-1, 21 seasons. He coached for the Cleveland Browns, the Kansas City Chiefs, Washington Redskins, San Diego Chargers. And I guess everybody can agree that we were puzzled he was fired after a 14-2 record with the Chargers in 2006 when they were the number one seed. But his biggest shortcoming was he was 5-13 in the postseason in January. All right, Steve, take the lead on this one. Obviously, you have more insight on it than I do.
Well, I actually watched Marty Schottenheimer play as a player in 1970 when I was a kid. The Patriots were playing their home games. They didn't even have a home back then. They used to play at Harvard Stadium. And that was, I still believe, the 1970 team was probably the worst team in Patriots history. I don't know how they won 2 games that year, but Marty was one of the linebackers on that team. So I remember, going to those games, and they were pretty terrible back then. But, as a coach, I think Rick hit on it earlier. He was a tremendous regular season coach. And then he would get very, very conservative in the playoffs for some reason. And that always cost his teams. But that 2006 Chargers team, they were loaded on both sides of the ball. And honestly, they should have never lost to the Patriots. That was a late comeback by Tom Brady in 2006 in San Diego, but they should have really never lost to the Patriots in that game. That was a team that a lot of people had destined to go to the Super Bowl. And I think if they get by New England that year, I think they would have beat Peyton Manning and the Colts that year. That was the year, that that Manning won the Super Bowl. But Marty was a tremendous coach, and he was very popular with the players. It just, for some reason, he just get that conservative nature. They used to call Marty ball, where they would play not to lose rather than to win in the playoffs.
Of course, everybody associates him with being on that team with the drive. So where John Elway broke his hearts and obviously broke Cleveland. So, Rick, what's your thoughts about Marty Schottenheimer's legacy?
It's sad because I was barely getting into the NFL, and I remember him so vividly with the Chiefs. Such a great, like I said, such a great regular season head coach, but not so well. And probably one of the greatest NFL coaches not to win a Super Bowl. I mean, the numbers are there. It's just unfortunately, just in the playoffs, he'd be in the first round and gone. It didn't matter if they went 14-2 or 10-6 or a wild card. They were always gone in the first round or second. So that's the unfortunate part about him. But he's a great head coach. It's just sad that, Alzheimer's is such a horrific disease. Apparently he died in Charlotte, where I live. I didn't know he was in Charlotte. So the story out here is huge. But he was a great head coach, no doubt about it. And he'll be missed a lot, because I just remember him so well. A lot, of course, with the Chargers and all that. And I know he's with the Browns, but I always remember him with the Chiefs. And just sad to see legends like that. We're losing a lot of legends this year.
Yeah, Mel, what are your thoughts about Marty?
Yeah, I've always respected him as a coach. Always liked the way that he coached, the way that his teams played. They're always, they took on his personality. They were very physical. Had an opportunity to play against the Kansas City Chiefs over in Germany for a preseason game, one of those American Bowls or something like that. We practiced with them all week, and they're always going to be a very physical team. And that's one thing you knew. You better tighten your chin strap, because they're going to bring it. Marty, unfortunately, came around at a difficult time. That John Elway and he beat him a time or two, and obviously Buffalo was having a tremendous run back then during that time as well. He always had very good teams, extremely good teams, well coached, good teams. A lot of he lost some coaches because of the success. I believe that's where Bill Cowher came from, and he got the Pittsburgh Steelers job, and he's a defensive coordinator over there. But I have a lot of respect for Coach Schottenheimer, a tremendous amount of respect for him and what he was able to do on the football field. And, regardless of his postseason record, I truly believe that he should be in the Hall of Fame for what he did. Everywhere he went, he was successful. He was always very successful. And, I appreciated what he did as a head coach.
Well, I mean, he did produce quite a coaching tree. A lot of his coaches ended up getting head jobs. Now, you know what Marty Schottenheimer has in common with Howard Schnellenberger? Let's see if any of you guys can get it.
What Marty Schottenheimer has in common with Howard Schnellenberger?
Yeah.
Nope, I have no idea.
Okay, Mel says he doesn't know. What about you, Steve? Take a crack at it.
Something with Miami?
No.
No, I have no idea.
Let's take a Mr. Curti loves to talk about baseball. I'm throwing a curveball. We'll see if he can hit it.
I don't know. They both won championships in the NAFL. I don't know. don't
You
know.
know, they both needed address labels because their names were so long.
Yeah, they did move around a lot.
Oh, I'm telling you, I remember years ago when I lived in Tampa, I ended up getting an address label because of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. Can you imagine having to write Schnellenberger and Schottenheimer down and everything you had authorized? I
Yeah.
knew I was going to get each of you on this one. I knew I was going to do it. So, all right, well, we were all 4 for 4 on Tampa, and you guys are 0 for 3 on the address labels, but that doesn't matter. I'm sure you'll think about their long last names. Come on, man. It's all in fun. We win together and we have fun together. And I'm sure you guys will take from this broadcast the Super Bowl and some address labels with it. So
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Hey, my last name is a long one too, so
Yeah, but not that long.
11 letters.
Yeah, but I don't know. What's Schottenheimer and Schnellenberger?
I don't know. That's
Exactly.
pretty
Probably
good.
longer than 11. That's my point. So, yeah. So, all right. So, Steve, lead off here. If you put Super Bowl 55 in its proper perspective, how would you go ahead and evaluate it as a whole?
You know, it's you know, we looked at it prior to the game and we talked about it on here last week. We were looking at it. We thought it was going to be one of those instant classics, you know, the kind of shootout type of thing. It didn't turn out that way. I just think it's, you know, it's going to be remembered as one of those, you know, right now everyone's on the Brady bandwagon because, you know, he left. And obviously he had a great deal to do with Tampa Bay's success this year. But I think history will look back at this as one of the great defensive games by the Bucs in Super Bowl history because they were facing an offense that nobody has stopped. I mean, they kept saying during the game, Patrick Mahomes had never lost by more than one score. He had never, you know, been held without a touchdown. And for them to do that on the biggest stage, I think, you know, when we look at it down the road sometime, it's going to go down as one of the greatest defensive game, you know, in the Super Bowl history because that was a prolific scoring offense.
Okay. All right, Mel, what's your take?
I think it's going to be, you know, you look at there was a lot of distractions. Obviously, there was distractions with COVID, whether or not the season was going to be played in the beginning. There's a lot of questions on whether or not it was going to be played, whether or not it was going to, you know, there's going to be stoppage, whether or not we're even going to get to the Super Bowl. And then we get to the Super Bowl, and unfortunately for Kansas City, one of their coaches gets involved in, you know, in a situation, and not only one of the coaches, it's the head coach's son gets involved in a situation where, you know, gets in a car accident. Some people are seriously injured. Alcohol may have been involved. So, you know, I don't take anything away from Tampa Bay, but clearly that had an effect on Andy Reid. It had to have an effect on him. I mean, he's only human. He's a human being, so it has to have an effect on him. He's got to be worried about his son. I mean, that's not just a coach; that's his son, and so obviously that's going to have an effect on the team. And it happened, you know, right before they're getting ready to travel and go to the game, and you can see, you know, they were out coached. And then, you know, he didn't have an answer for him at halftime. When halftime, you know, during halftime, that's when you make your adjustments. Okay, this is what they're doing. This is what we need to do. They came out, nothing. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life again in the second half. They had no answer for what Todd Bowles was bringing. So, you know, distractions and, you know, being able to complete the season with a lot of uncertainty. And then obviously, you know, the unfortunate incident that happened, you know, just a few days before the Super Bowl involving his son.
Right.
Well, you know, to me, it was a disappointing Super Bowl. We thought it'd be a classic, you know, the young kid versus the old veteran, maybe in the passing of the torch. I think a lot of people had Tampa Bay winning because it's Tom Brady and he's always going to figure out a way. We just thought it'd be a little bit more, I thought it'd be a little bit more competitive, you know, but, you know, defense always beats offense. You know, we saw that with Seattle against a very high prolific Broncos offense. You know, the year Manning threw for 55 touchdowns and had most yards thrown, and yet they were absolutely shellacked. And it wasn't that of a shellacking; it was just so dominated, and we focused so much on the offense with Tom Brady and Gronkowski and Antonio Brown and Fournette. We kind of ignored the defense, and I didn't see that coming. And I think Todd Bowles will be a big name to come up next year for a head coaching job. And I think Leftwich as well. I think those are two guys right there. Bowles was a head coach, and so I think he'll get another look at. And I think Leftwich could be another guy that someone could be looking at, because they had outstanding game plans, and Kansas City just looked absolutely frazzled. I've never seen Mahomes look so frustrated. He's always very well and composed. He was just beyond frustrated, and you pretty much knew it was over from in early in the game.
You know, let me continue your point, Rick. I agree with you. Byron Leftwich will be a future head coach. Todd Bowles will get another head coaching opportunity. I also believe that Eric Bieniemy will get one as well. You know, obviously they were the last two standing in terms of when they were able, the Super Bowl, but those three guys will be head coaches at some point. I'm actually happy though Bruce Arians gets a championship because he's been in the league for so long. And it's good to see Bruce Arians and Andy Reid both have championship rings as well. They've been around the game a long time. They're exceptional coaches. So it's good. And of course, I've always going to fall back on it. I love to see first timers get that ring because everybody knows how difficult it is to get there. And you never know when you're going to get back. So I'm really happy. Yeah, there's no question that the Mahomes and the Brady matchup didn't live up to its expectations. I was on a lot of the webinars all week, and it was interesting to listen to both Mahomes and Brady talk and their talk about their success along the way. But in the end, the familiarity factor still plays into this whole thing, that it's difficult to beat a team twice. It's not that you can't do it, but it's very difficult to do it. And obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took care of business against the Kansas City Chiefs. Guys, great show. I'm glad that we all got it right and that we had some fun with the address labels. I'm sure you guys will take address labels out of the equation anytime you think of Howard Schnellenberger and Marty Schottenheimer. So, and I'm glad we talked about other things like Russell Wilson as well. Again, I hope that Seattle protects him. He's had a good career, but you can appreciate head injuries because that's what this has come down to with all these lawsuits that are going on. But all in all, another football season in the books. Hopefully we'll see fans next year. It'll be a very interesting off season. So with that said, Mel, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and what you stand for. Mel, we appreciate you being on the broadcast throughout football season. I'm sure we'll be using you quite a bit during the off season as more football news comes up. So make sure that you're ready to roll when we contact you. So the floor is yours, Mel.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I can be reached on all social media at Mel Farr Jr. That's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Email address is melfarjr@gmail.com. And then you can check out what we have going on for the youth here in Atlanta and also in Detroit at melfar.org. Now, we're not doing anything for them this year because of COVID, but we plan on getting back to doing that next year.
Okay, Rick.
You can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. My email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB and Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram as Charlotte Bats. I'm also on Twitter as Charlotte Bats Baseball, and I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti, and you can contact me on any of those social media websites.
And Rick does a super job here with South Florida Tribune, making sure that all of our content gets out to social media. Rick, we're very thankful that you not only promote the broadcast, but also all the numerous articles that you're out there tweeting. So we figure you've developed a skill tweeting. We weren't concerned about your journalism ability many years ago because not everybody has the talent that Steve Balestrieri has to write and write a lot. So with that, and me, I do what I've got to do to get the job done. So we'll have a segue over to Steve Balestrieri and let everybody know how they get a hold of you, where to follow, and what he's writing about. And then I'll talk about what we'll be doing after you're done. Steve, take it away.
All right, thank you. And it's always a pleasure to be on here with all you fine gentlemen. It's fun to talk, sports and football in general. And you can find me on patsfans.com. I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary with writing for them. We do a bunch of pre-draft profiles. That's what I've been doing a lot of since their season ended early this year. Looking at some of the guys that may potentially be of interest to the Patriots. You can find me on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. I also write for softrep.com, as you can see on my shirt. That I write about the military and special operations. So I've been with them for the past 4 years, and I do a podcast with them as well. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm always on one of those. So it's always a pleasure.
And this hat, Steve, came with you in mind, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, well,
So you see the
just like that
camouflage.
sweatshirt on Saturday.
Oh yeah, no, I wore an Army sweatshirt that I got over at Dunham's, and I know Mel's familiar with Dunham's out in Metro Detroit, right? So I went to that rack, and I knew when Steve and I have done military stuff, I had to have the right attire to do it. So yeah, today we brought the camis out as well. So in terms of, and Steve Balestrieri and I will be working on some projects at some point down the road. Mel and Rick will be involved with StreamYard. That's something we're working on next. Our goal is to get a lot of our broadcasts streamed out. So this is something that we're going to be working very diligently on, and we're going to be starting that work right away. We'll certainly enjoy this format, but any way that we can go out there and improve it, we're certainly one of those individuals that are going to work as hard as we can to try to make it better. That's what we're all here to do, is improve ourselves. With that said, in terms of following us on Twitter, you can reach us at Tribune South. It's at Tribune South. Follow us. Good stuff. Okay. Facebook and Instagram, South Florida Tribune gets it done. YouTube channel, please subscribe for nothing. Okay. South Florida Tribune. You'll be able to see these broadcasts visually. And our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. We have our writers, we have our media distribution partners, and we have all the broadcasts on there. We have all types of content that you can imagine. We have some news related things. Check out the website. My wife, Candy Morganroth, does a phenomenal job putting it together. Steve, what did you think about the job that Candy does putting that thing together?
Yeah, it's looking pretty good, and I'm after talking with her on Saturday. I'm sure it's going to look even better now.
Yeah, she does an unbelievable job keeping it up to date all the time. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Scott Morganroth. If you want to go ahead and hear the audio version of the broadcast, you can do so by going to Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. So there's a lot of different ways that you can find us. Rick, Curti, nobody does a better job talking about the COVID message. But before you do that, once again, COVID hit me a little harder with the recent passing of my Aunt Judy, and this one's going to sting for a long time. And I know everybody is dealing with these kind of things. So, Rick, nobody does the COVID message better than you. So I'm handing the COVID message off to you, Mr. Curti. Go ahead.
Well, things are getting a little bit better with COVID. I know people are getting more vaccinations. Numbers have gone down a little bit. So it's we're getting a little bit better, but unfortunately, people are still not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I was worried about this Super Bowl. And unfortunately, there were a lot of maskless people at the Super Bowl, people partying. No Duke, North Carolina beat Duke. They have maskless kids around. Guys, just this is serious. I mean, it's not worth it. We've all had people affected by this. My brother had COVID. Scott lost a family member who had COVID. It's affected everybody. It's affected jobs, and places can't open up. Schools can't open up. And if we just get together, wear masks, social distance, and just be smart about things, we'll get past this. We're gonna get past it, but we can get past it sooner if people wear masks. So social distance, wash your hands, avoid crowds at all times as much as you can. Just stay home, watch a movie like I do, or do a podcast like I'm doing right now. Have fun, but do it safely.
My brother Lonnie had it as well. And, we talk about Michigan. The restaurants in Michigan were closed for close to 6 months, and you had to rely on carryout. You talk about the financial hit he took. He paid his employees anyway, so more power to him. But, you know, unfortunately, a lot of businesses have fallen by the wayside as a result of COVID. So, yeah, take it seriously, folks. This is really nothing to laugh about. And hopefully at some point, we'll all have an opportunity to get vaccinated. But guys, enjoyed having the four of us doing our panel version of the Super Bowl. Been a lot of fun. I know we're going to be working on more projects together at some point down the road. But meanwhile, you know, I have my fearsome foursome, okay, and it's right here on the Sports Exchange. Once again, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth Motor City Madmouth. Glad to be joined by Mel Farr Jr., Rick Curti, and Steve Balestrieri. I'm really proud of my crew here tonight. So, meanwhile, any closing thoughts, guys? Nothing.
sir.
I actually have an update about Andy Reid's son.
Yeah.
I heard that he was put on leave by the NFL, and apparently his contract ran out. So he doesn't have a team right now.
Okay. Thanks for the update. All right. Very good. Okay. Up to the minute. So meanwhile, on behalf of Steve Balestrieri, Rick Curti, Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we will catch you the next time. God bless everybody. Be safe, and we will catch you the next time. Good night and have a wonderful weekend.